Let me turn this damn light off. So, I just gotta make a recollection of my own personal, I guess, accomplishments and simple achievements. Um, well, where do I start? Okay. Start with what amazed me so much, right? Science, the Romans, Scientology, atheism, everything that borders understanding to deeper consciousness or questioning of anything that has to do with the soul, spirit, or higher mind. Essentially, I used to wonder, what is the world? Right? It used to seem to be a bottomless pit. Whole, full, and only. Yes, it was a lonely perception, perspective. I don't know if I did find out that, there's a code, a lifeline code. That's like, however it goes, things repeat themselves over and over and over again in this inescapable format. I mean, it's the easiest way to just say, the most repeated pattern is, life and death. We live and we die. Inescapable. Everybody knows it. Blah. So, I guess that left me with limits in my moral belief system. Things like that, right? Let's venture further. Now, since we're in or science, okay, or birth and science and beginnings and childhood, let's work on over conflict of religion, which we all, no matter where we go, have. I don't care what you are, what you believe in, where you came from. There was a point in time in you where no matter what religion you was on, no matter what form God, the Creator, was presented to you, but you denied it. You fought with that there, and you naturally just didn't understand it. And that was the main focus and the reason of why you denied it. We all have this stage. And I guess I can consider this a religion. But the gathering of this, I'm going to call it the balancing era, or the age of balance. And I'm going to use the symbol of yin and yang. Which is, of course, the black and white symbol, the ball half and half, equal in flow, equal in energy, and equal in observation of the opposite. Now, in this balancing stage, we tend to find our own, essential questions towards God. Yes, God. And, there's many different, testimonies and different books and chapters that actually, replicate the very, essential thing that I'm talking about when I say there are passages and things that, essentially replicate the thoughts that we have, like the visions or the things that make us realize that, life is tangible and also untangible. make us realize that, things are limited. We should take things for what they are, not for granted. And, essentially, the answer that we always find is the one that we carve for ourselves. And for me, I have to say that was Buddhism and shamanism because I would lie honestly in church and say, yeah, I believe in God. Yeah, I didn't believe in the book, the biblical God. I didn't believe in the stories, meaning I didn't actually believe the stories were real and that the books are relevant to my nowadays life as it is said. However, I did believe that, through the dimensions of patterns and the complications of things that we interact with in life, just the very variables and the choices and the things that are granted to us and their limited potential possibilities give us the actual, knowledge that I took as wisdom. And of course, the subject of being, a world created. Understood that, something an outside source has to do with us being here. Something loves us. Something cares about us. Something carried us here. And, I grew to be eternally grateful. That broke the ice with my personality, I guess, because I then chose to branch out and learn more spiritual and, essential, I guess, social intellect too, becoming more optimist and just naturally as becoming more open-minded to conversations of anything, reincarnation, all of that stuff. And the more I got out into the realm of that, the more I got into what I would consider the next stage, which is mythology. Now, the first stage, of course, which was Scientology or science, completely differs from this one in one essential format of just being the belief of that in which I cannot see. Alright, so now within this mythology, there's a great wonder, and all of the things. Like, for instance, one of the things that I always wondered and I always thought, still believe in to this day, is that, somehow, technology has got to the point where, they could look backwards and forth in time. However, they can't occupy it. But, doing this, they, along with the, data and so-called stuff recorded from the dinosaurs being here, I believe that, dragons, actual dragons, maybe not exactly fire breathing, but, actual dragons existed. And I believe that, of course, if we had dinosaurs, scaled mammoth beings, why wouldn't it also be, a gene pool for, fly-based creatures in that same genetic code, right? Whatever. I'm just saying a little example of what, mythology essentially governs. But not only with that thought, there was also the thought that, with quantum physics, things can be teleported, transported, which is two different things. Tele means from one location to a completely separate location. Trans means a movement from one thing to the next. But essentially, levitation and all of the things that break the laws of physics basically can be achieved through, again, quantum physics, and not only quantum physics, but the essential variations or changes of the chemistries of certain things like radiation. This is all facts. This stuff can all be done. It's all true, believe it or not. It's how we eat. We microwave our food because we radiate beams at a level that opens, you know, protons to a level to be able to bounce upon each other so much. I don't know if it's protons exactly, but electrons, protons, or whatever. But level to bounce around and hit each other so much that they essentially beam and warp, into heat. And essentially, all the stuff that we do, technology, all this, a lot of people have no clue what is really going on right in front of them. But if you actually explain this stuff, they will be like mystified. Like really, really, really awakened to what reality is. A lot of people don't even know. I call them and I consider them the baby society because it essentially is what it is. They sleepers. They get what they get. They're given, what they're told, and they listen, they follow, and they do what they do. Blah. And they go to sleep and they wake up. They eat, sleep, defecate, urinate, and most of the time in that same cycle, but over and over again. But okay, that's mad. Blah. Okay, so yeah, with the mythology, or mythicism, of course, it was the belief or what I was into as far as religion or what was the mentoring edge. It was more the Roman society, or rather, it wasn't that far into actual Egypt, but of course, Buddhism, Roman mythology, or Roman or Greek mythology per se, and I guess ancient Chinese scribes and stuff like that, which describes a lot about herbs, which is pretty interesting because trees have a very, 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 very special properties to them if you actually want to know the truth. And when I say special, I mean very special. Very special. But, okay. Essentially, what I gather from Rome, I like to call it Rome rather than Greek or Greece. Even though, the Romans that I call, by the name of Romans, are actually Greek by name, like Zeus, because they started to name them after planets, like Jupiter, Mars, Pluto, blah, blah, blah. It's actually the transition and into stuff that they actually got into, which explains so much about reality, but step further. But anyway, so essentially, governing the idea, what I gather from them is, you have many different manipulations of elements and many different things that can control certain elements, and you had, in my opinion, which is the ultimate truth of just how crazy Americans and everybody in this world are about symbolisms, paintings, and any type of way to get a message across. Sometimes, most of the time, you gotta die out the truth, hide the facts in plain sight. What something is, most of the time, is only in a small format, like a necklace. It could be a necklace, like a Mona Lisa, so small, but it's so well detailed that the naked eye wouldn't tell, that the technology back then wouldn't be able to make such sharp edges, and that what it replicates is like an engine or something. It's not an actual picture out there, but I'm just saying, or a painting out there that is a Mona Lisa wearing a necklace with a spaceship. But I'm just to give you an example. This is how you have to get past the masses, and at least, I guess, stay aware at the same time without, I guess, letting someone lose a challenge of discovering things for themselves, which is one of the most selfish things about mankind. But I guess it shows that creativity has been within us before we were even made. It is a well good thing. But okay. So with the elements and changes, you get the whole essential thought that, if you pay attention to all the different, icons, all the different characters that we have, if you actually know to look at things, you got the constant resemblant lion, which is Hercules, right? You got him in many different depictions of heroes. The blonde haired guy with a sword, always with a sword, no matter where. And the thing about him is he is like ferocious, and like he usually end up hurting himself, but willing himself through it. However, but that's they that's how they do in media. They depict their gods in different forms, and they always name them in different ways and say whatever. Maybe somebody ever find out or whatever. It's just like an inside joke. It's not really for many people, I guess, to know. But that's from Rome perspective in media. You get a lot of different things with that. You get the manipulation of water, manipulation of fire, the manipulation of all these different things, and it's actually esoteric teaching of Scientology or mythology, which is both subjects of step 1 and 2. But essentially how to morph or manifest desire of your outside circumstances for your inner desire. And basically that's what you gain from Rome. That's what I gained from Rome as a child, and I love quantum physics. So I'm still planning to do something like a book or something on quantum physics. I'm not sure what my name I gather from that is actually Zero. My name is Zero, so it's like to the naked mind, not the naked eye. Person be like, Zero, that means nothing. Like, look at them and then be like, okay, well, whatever, it means nothing. So that's good because the name shouldn't mean nothing to you, But no, it's an actual theologian or thesis. Scientist, any critical thinker, you would understand that, okay, a person that names himself Zero has to name himself Zero for a reason. And then if you think, oh well, if this person knows or talks about quantum physics a lot, blah blah blah, probably understands that Zero literally is everything without its stem to become something or pointed out. Because if you understand how actual numbers work, it's actually a code. And there's no actual zero. Literally, there's no actual zero. That's just a place that, they try and spot to say that, you can see it because there's nothing there. You have to start from somewhere, right? Okay. Basically, if you count, right, you start counting. You start with what? 1. Exactly. You don't start with 0 because 0 is not a number. It's not a process that's equal to 1 at all, is it, right? However, if you go and say what's the opposite of 1, you'll say, okay, the opposite of 1 is -1. Now you ask the question of what's the opposite of 0. Now, without it having a process or the equality or amount value of 1, you can't just say, oh, it means everything, because it's not a truth. That's not a fact. That's just an ignorant, statement. You can say it means infinity, which is the ultimate fact, but at the same time, it's not. But if you are trying to flip 0, right, what you'll end up doing is actually multiplying it by itself, because if you understand the definition of numbers, numbers are a scale, right? A scale or weight to balance and to look at something, to judge it, to name it, let's say, per se, right? And if you try and name something that isn't named, or something that doesn't have the potential to be named because it's just, space, right? It's like open a whole wormhole to saying that, just like, I don't know how to put it, but This might sound a little too complicated, but it's like saying the observer without the observing of zero still being zero, and that 1 and 2 exist without the potential of any amount being weighed. That's impossible, basically, is what I'm saying. And once you try and interpret, just the calculations and everything, you would understand. If anybody not understand quantum physics multiplications on a calculus level, you would actually come to the equation that if you try and scale a space in front of zero, which would be the quantum zero, right? Then you would get just the opposite on the other end. But if you try and, scale zero on itself, it's like trying to weigh a black hole. And yeah, so blah. Anyway, that's what I got from calculations, numbers, and everything, because they created in numbers, and that's the things that they judge themselves for, they love, and they value. Got that from them. And now going further, said Buddhism. Now what I gather from India or China, personally, because both carrying doctrines. I'm sorry, I know Buddhism is completely Chinese, and Indians are not Chinese, but I say that because they carry the doctrines. Indians carry a lot of different things. They're shaman by nature, so they teach Egyptian, Chinese, many different things. But okay, so what I gathered from Buddhism is almost what completely awakened everything else to a point where it is now a structured or set for a new process, for a new religion or concept to be believed in, because the word is more. Okay, so anyway, let me explain how. Meditation, spiritual involvement, the knowledge of ascended masters, descended demons. Not full knowledge of descended demons and ascended masters, because of course everything is cloaked and, I guess, honestly say perfectly set, for an honest mind to discover. But yeah, so meditation, of course, there's different things. There's self-control, harmonization. I feel like you get a cellular control level, which actually awakens or make you realize that technology sometimes is very unhealthy for the spirit, because the wavelengths, the vibrations, radiant codes, patterns. We tend to pick up patterns, and we evolve with patterns. We adapt with patterns. And they say that we don't adapt quick, but that is a lie. Everybody know this shit. Excuse my language. First time I had to cuss. But yeah, everybody knows that everything around them adapts at its own evolutionary trait and pattern code. So, we had 23 chromosomes, so-called, discovered in ourselves, but, we got more than that. And that essentially means we don't even have all of our DNA activated. We can be possibly capable of flying, just saying. And we wouldn't know it yet. Or they would know it and they didn't tell the masses, but whatever. Anyway, once you awaken your spirit, you actually, get into the knowledge of the third eye, the chakras, stuff like that. It essentially makes you, again, doubly optimistic and open minded and start questioning everything. Again, this is just my second stage of, where I'm going. But this, brought me to the confusion part where I didn't, have the answers to understand, but I just had the grasp of a connection. And it was more like, yeah, that has to be, created because it's an ultimate design and, stuff like that, reinvigorated or reinforced, you know, thoughts of the creator and stuff like that. So, of course, it essentially it's reawakened to me, I'll say, to the things around me, and I started to pay attention to symbols, symbologies, and things like that a lot more. And this is essentially, in a nutshell, what I gathered from India and Indians, because the stuff that I was gathering and stuff came from most of the other Buddhists, I gotta say. But what I gathered from China, of course, now this is on a whole nother level, is the essential quality of a clock and a book. All right, so make in mind it means nothing. All right. All right. So if you take those two things and you separate them, for instance, right? You say, okay, what is the deeper sense that I'm gathering from trying to say, what is a clock, right? All right, a clock basically is, I could say from the outside perspective, right? From the outside perspective, it's a process created for a purpose. Simply is what it is. With every process, you have things or moments or things that has to interact for this thing to happen. Okay, this is essentially what martial arts breaks down into. The motion theory of action and reaction, cause and effect. It governs everything in life, and also breaks back to the yin yang symbol. Of course, what do you choose? What is light? What is dark? What is perception? All of that in one bottled message, right? So we back to the point of where's the clock from the inside, if that's the outside perspective, right? So from the inside, the perspective of the clock is actually, and this might sound stupid, but everything, and when I say everything, I mean like literally everything from like this ashtray, even though you can barely see it, TV, and it's my face, everything. And the reason why is because it's everything separated. Everything that deteriorates is a part of a clock, and that essentially means that the world is all essentially one grand clock. One grand clock, and all the planetaries, they rotate, almost making it look just like a clock. That's almost like literally what we physically manifested the clock out of, was so-called the planetary rotation. And people, they don't even know that, but now we use digital. But anyway, that's the clock. Oh yeah, also it's self-ending. So everything that has a process chooses to end also. So whatever. That also connects to the book, but that's the one connection. Now, before I separate them real quick one more time. Now, a book by itself, right? A book by itself is a process completed. meaning it is a process that has already been done, controlled, sustained, and it has results. And within those results, also the processes within. So it's um interaction into interaction defined basically. So it is basically the definition of something that has happened, or something that is explained, or something that bears results, or bears desired results, because you have fictional stories and things that people write to fulfill entertainment. But okay, and let's look at it in a symbolical example, right? Symbolical definition of a book uh, is the unobserved, I will say, world, because everything within it is not within, yet it can be interpreted from within. So it is a doorway into another existence, essentially. It is the imagination created, or essentially invigorated in okay, that's all I got for a book real quick for you, because basically I don't know how to explain it else to you, but it teaches everything granted as far as a gift into knowledge. It is wisdom, it is data, it is how to put it, it is a lesson, it is fulfillment. And to put these two together, right? Clock, book. Left hand, we had clock, which is a process, or divided. We're gonna say a process divided. Now the reason why I say that now is because we have on the right hand a book, which is a process frozen, or process observed. Now, while the clock is eternal and essentially goes on, forever. Like, for instance, our clock is the clock that we live in now. The world doesn't end until all of our gases is gone. I mean, stop there. I don't want to go too far, but the world doesn't end until the world ends, and that is essentially how that goes. Now, the book is finite. It's not infinite, meaning that it is self-ending in its process, saying that it has chosen to say that this is the end of the point that I've chosen to get across to you. So it communicated, to the observer, is essentially saying that it's a communication form. It's a way of, completing the process. So combined again, now we're going to use those interpretations and say simply that the clock with a book is a balanced observation. So it is a governed, like if we were to say America, right? Instantly saying the word America is a book in its own, because once you define America, we have many different interpretations and stories in the back of our head, but we all govern the same general idea that it is where we are. So, that's essentially what, clock and book merged are. And okay, now to break this into more of a symbolical format, now we saying, how did I get this? Getting this from China. Now, okay, if you pay attention to martial arts, right? The master's always the one, if you pay attention to the stories, that is kind of, we're going to use Mr. Miyagi for an example, kind of in a rut, right? Mr. Miyagi of modern day Karate Kid with Jaden Smith. Um, you can for instance see, you know, he destroyed the car and then rebuilt the car every year because his family had died in it. And essentially I'm just gonna break it down in a nutshell and explain to you what I govern from martial arts movies all over the globe, no matter where they came from. In a point of when a child actually asks, can he be taught martial arts? And this is always the biggest impact to me on every movie, right? Is the reaction of the masters, his reaction, his response. And he's always like, no, I'm not gonna teach you, or you're not ready, or you don't know what you want to fight for, or essentially broken into those words. And you always ask, damn, that's kind of mean, because you're getting bullied or this and that, right? Then you look from a way, way, way older perspective, and you start to understand, well, dang, that man did teach that boy some dangerous stuff. Very dangerous stuff. And when I say dangerous, I mean, you watch Western movies and it almost make you look like a superhero, martial arts. It's a very beautiful thing. It's make you look like you can go and just rob the bank without a weapon, just barehanded, just give me the money. Or I'm going to beat you up. And they just hand you the money because they don't want to get beat up. But, essentially, I'm thinking, well, yeah, that's the thing. And then, you start paying attention and you actually see that there is that very student always in every martial arts movie that is the dangerous student, the example of of what can be taught, right? And if you pay attention to real martial arts, I'm explaining it like this: the master is a tree, all right? The students are the limbs. Some of them break off, some of them get stronger. Now, most fruitful bear fruit, and they always, stem or whatever. And the point that I'm getting across is this, like, you got a structured family always in a set. You got like almost like a church environment where you get into the dojo, where you got the master and a stage, and then you got the left and right sections. Segregation is also what I meant to say. But okay. So you get the bad student and then you get the new student. Now that bad student is always the jealous student, and that anger creates so much evil in that manifested room that it destroys the world around them. If you pay attention to all martial arts movies, think I'm lying? Watch one of the realest martial arts movies that shows a kid being brought into a dojo, and you will start to see, well, yeah, it follows that exact format. He joins in. The kid looks at him, and then he is instantly jealous because, the master favors him. And with this kid having some weakness, he feels as though the teacher's going to pay him special attention, which he does. And this student rebels, almost sometimes even killing the master. And, taking on the throne and, teaching the rest of the kids to be beaten by, the main character, the protagonist. But yeah, it follows that format. But essentially what it shows is the clock in a book also has a pattern, not just an ultimate form, but together they have a pattern. And it actually is the fact that that book repeats itself over and over and over and over and over through the clock, literally from start to finish. It starts and it finishes. It starts and it finishes. It starts and it finishes. And it is essential codes that what we have, no matter where we are, no matter where we go, we interact with people, no matter what community, we all got emotions that puts us in the same shoes all the time that we could express to each other. It's the beauty of a clock in a book. It opens a doorway for communication through history to teach us to do better. It's like a parent. It's like Chronos. It's the knowledge of history, wisdom. It is the very evolution of species and how we carry books through time, like the book of life. And you know, essentially that's what I gained from China and this whole mythism and how the past and science and all that stuff mix up with me, reality, and how God has to do it, all that, right? Alright, so that's stage 2. Now at this point, I'm going to give you a little quick education on where I'm left at. All this stuff, I know the spirit is real. I know the soul is real. I know the world is real. I'm not just sitting here thinking that I could possibly be the only person alive and that everybody else doesn't exist. No, I'm sitting here with the knowledge of knowing that, I'm not alone. There's a high potential that there could be aliens. Most likely is a God, but we may not know exactly a format or a name to describe it because, we got jealousies of community history, teachings, and things to self-control, to mind control, the masses and things like that. I'm very aware and open-minded at this point in time. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, yeah, don't look at something and judge it for what it is. Look at something, take what you can get from it, and keep researching. Then make your judgment, but never make your judgment final. So this is where I'm essentially left, and my, I don't know, what do I call it? Spiritual walk, or my knowledge of wisdom of knowledge. However, so pause it here and continue part 2.